Hey TV fans, Bored Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about Pluribus Season 1 Episode 5. The episode is called Simply Got Milk, like I'm doing one of those adverts. Full spoilers from the start of this review. As always, don't forget, if you're liking this video, give me a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel, and comment on the video, on my review, and also on the episode. Share me out on social media, all the rest of the normal stuff. Also, before I forget, hit the hype button, because that helps to share me out to more people also. So, I think this might be the weakest episode of the season so far. Not that it's a bad episode, I think it's still a very solid episode. It's probably just the weakest because the whole thing is the Narir Shehorn character, Carol, is isolated even more so throughout this episode than the other episodes, because the setup is literally then the collective decide to leave town and leave her all alone because of the events of last week and because of some of her actions recently. It's almost like taking a break in a relationship. They decide to up sticks and just say it's nothing personal, but in light of how you've been behaving, we feel it's time to take a little break from you. So it's almost like that. There's a message they leave, which she keeps ringing and having to listen to, and leave a message if she wants them to do anything for her while they're out of town. You get this whole big visual, which is all the cars on the freeway literally backed up and everyone leaving town. She kind of holds her arms up. It's like, are you kidding me? So the whole episode is how she reacts to that and some of her struggles when there's no one around in town and there's no resources anymore, there's no system. It's kind of showing you that there has to be a system of some kind, and you have to have services in place to help a town, a society keep running, regardless of what you happen to think about that system and that society. You still need these things put in place for basic things. So we see that. We also see how Carol reacts and how she continues this campaign to try and change things, to try and reverse things, to like cause some sort of rebellion. So she starts filming these videos for like the other unaffected members to try and convince them and try and keep them up to date on things she's learning throughout the episode. So again, it's Carol being very proactive and almost finding loopholes and ways around the limitations of her being isolated and left alone. And I think that's the real strong suit of the episode, that and the way the episode ends, like the cliffhanger. The episode definitely goes into areas that I didn't expect, so this show does continue to surprise me in that respect. But yeah, it just is a little bit slower and a little bit not quite as engrossing maybe as the other episodes, because you do have so much of it just being Carol, and bits of it are a little bit repetitive because, as I said, she has to keep calling this phone number and she has to keep listening to the message, and they do play us that message, I think it's at least 3 times, and I get why they do that, and you see Carol's reaction and we're meant to feel like her frustration, and we obviously see how the different things she then asks for, but it just did feel a little bit repetitive at times. So yeah, it's a little bit more of a limited episode, but once again, Narir Shehorn is like great. It's really surprising me I mean, maybe not surprisingly because she's such a talented actress, but some of her comedy trops in this show has really been a standout thing. Like in this, there's some really good physical comedy because of, first of all, just her reactions to everything, but also the scene where she like goes into the big trash compactor and she literally falls in and starts stumbling through trash and looking through. I think some of her physical comedy in that scene is really good. Also, when she's filming these videos and she's getting like really expressive and trying to send messages, and it's almost like a great sort of silent actress where you have to convey so much with like signals and things like that. I mean, obviously she can talk, so it's not the same, but some of her physicality and body language is kind of similar to that. It reminds me of that in any case. And there's a couple of funny moments in this, like at the very start of the episode, she has another like frosty altercation with it's the mother of, again, I can't remember but the Indian lady who she had a bit of a shouting match with all the way back in episode 2. But the one who's always translating her for being like, why are you causing everyone else pain with your rage? And once again, it's a similar thing. Like, she literally calls Carol up and is straight into a rant about, hey, I think it's my uncle something had a heart attack because of what you did, and then mentions something else, and she's just sort of chews her out, and Carol has a little bit of a shot back. So that's a little bit more of like a comedic scene. But one of the things Carol requests is that she wants the tapes from these videos to be sent out to each of the remaining people who are uninfected. And as she points out later on, she has no idea if anyone's actually getting these. Like, she says that on the video, because it's almost like when she doesn't hear anything back or there's no reaction from the others, she's like questioning, well, are they actually getting them? And of course it could just be that they don't. Again, they're not being convinced by Carol's argument. They're still very much like, oh, this is a great utopian society now. Why should we rock the boat? Because again, Carol has a certain way about her with like how strong some of the language is. Like, because at one point there's some sort of line about, yeah, I know you all think this is like cozy and like happy-go-lucky and that, but yeah, don't blame me when you're being forced to do something you don't want to do. So there's lots of like interesting little moments where it's really exploring her being left alone with no resources, because one of the most amusing scenes is the one with the drone, where she has to call up and she has to ask them to come and collect the garbage. And they say, well, we can do that, but only if the bag is a certain size, and you have to leave it like a few feet away from where you are. And so this drone comes and collects the garbage, picks up the bag. But again, this is maybe a little critique at modern technology and how we maybe rely too much on these things, and how sometimes you do need the human element, because the drone gets a certain distance and then it runs into like a lamppost and it drops the thing, and the garbage goes everywhere, and Carol sort of has to sort it out herself. And one of the most like darker and, you know, kind of tense scenes is when a bunch of wolves, I think. Now, I sort of confused them for huskies, but I think it's because it was in the dark. But yeah, they were meant to be wolves, which makes sense because of all the animals being allowed to roam free in this new setup. The wolves come into a garden and they start attacking and digging away at the grave of Helen. So Carol has to find a way to fend them off, which eventually she does. Like, she breaks into the car and drives it through the gate, and she's also got like access to a gun and is able to scare them away. But it's a whole production because she has to figure out how to start up the car, and it's definitely a more emotional scene because of what they're doing and how personal that is to Carol. And then the next morning, in probably the most visual or the best visual moment of the episode, she goes out and, well, she doesn't buy because she doesn't need to, but she goes and gets some paving stones and she covers over Helen's Helen's grave again. The plot, me like recovering it but making sure no one can get into it again, no one can desecrate it again. And you just see the sun setting and showing that she's at this all day pretty much, and it's a really beautiful visual. And once again, Rhea Shearhorn sells it really well, and you can see how much this means to her. And you get the various video messages, but the big thing, which is a turning point which she picks up on, which is where the title of the episode goes, is that at some point when she starts digging around the garbage, she finds all these milk cartons, and she's making this crack about, yeah, you fuckers really drink a lot of milk. And she traces it to the local dairy factory, which, as she says later on in her video message, it used to produce all this dairy, but now it's like, it doesn't really count. It's not really in use anymore because they've sort of put a stop to all that. But what she finds out is that all these milk cartons don't have milk in at all. They have some sort of weird syrupy type thing, which she tastes and kind of concludes that it's pretty gross, but she doesn't really know what it is, bar it's this colour and it's got a little bit of a syrupy type feel. But she speculates that maybe they've put all kind of like healthy things in there, like maybe some sort of plant-based things, but she's not quite sure. But she knows it's not milk and it's very suspicious, so she kind of presents this on the video and says, yeah, this isn't on the level, and what are they putting into these things? Are they trying to control us, trying to drug us through whatever they're putting in this thing? Comes to a head later on in the episode where she goes like one step further, where she comes across, or she sees like a code type thing on one of the packages. So she traces it to like a warehouse, to like some sort of food place, and she finds some dog food which she sees is same sort of supply line. So it's obviously going to make her wonder, well, are they drugging the dog food now? And that could be something, like maybe they do have an agenda of maybe controlling the dogs, maybe drugging them, if that's what they're doing, or if it's like a sinister intention. It may not be, of course, but even so, it's a little bit weird however way you cook it. But yeah, she starts looking around this place and it's really dark. It's quite a tense scene, and she opens up like some sort of container and she's really scared. She takes a pause and she screams out of fear, and that's it. We cut straight to black. So it is pretty much the perfect cliffhanger for the episode. Like, what exactly has Carol found? So her being proactive in this way and there's kind of weird areas the episode took. It's definitely the strong suit of the episode. I think the stuff with Helen's grave was probably the most powerful of anything in the episode. And you do have a very intriguing cliffhanger now. Now, I know people have speculated it could be like a body, could be then maybe some sort of remains, whatever it may be, but then maybe there's some sort of... I know some people have speculated about like maybe cannibalism, something. I don't know if it would be something that extreme with how these people kind of, what their mantra is and what they're preaching at the very least. But I mean, who knows? It definitely sets up some interesting possibilities. But yeah, as I said, probably the weakest episode so far, but still plenty of good things in it. That's Pluribus episode 5 of the first season, so we're about halfway through the season now. Let me know what you guys think of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Support me, patreon.com/borednow, or you can become a channel member. 3 different tiers for that one, and you get a variety of perks for it. Also, you can make a super chat for a one-off donation on the channel. But yeah, I'm catching up on a little bit of TV. So today I also have one more episode of Stranger Things to review. So the part 1 of the final season. 3 episodes are up, the reviews, and I've got one more to do. And then we've got our live stream next week where we will be talking about season 5, part 1 in quite a bit of depth. So quite a bit of TV coverage coming up on the channel, and I'm also planning on covering season 2 or 4 out when that hits later this month, so look out for that. But thanks for listening, keep watching TV, see you soon guys.